Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Homeless Task Force meeting number 2. Appreciate everybody being in attendance tonight. Thank you, task force members, for giving up an evening to be here tonight. I believe we have all of our members here. One of our members can't be here tonight due to some family scheduling in the evening, but appreciate everyone else being present, and he said he'd be able to watch online at a later date. Tonight's meeting's agenda is very simple and straightforward. Tonight we're gathered together to hear from the public, listen to their perspective, understand their ideas and their concerns as we talk about the issue of homelessness. Members of the public want to welcome you tonight and thank you for making the time to be here and your commitment to our community in Sioux Falls. Your perspective and concerns are very important, and we look forward to learning from you. Tonight I do want to give a special welcome to our Chief of Police and our fire chief, if they would stand, just so people recognize that they're here this evening. And they will be kind of ad hoc members of our task force, but they wanted to be here tonight to hear your input as well. They'll be providing important input along the way as well. So thank you for being present with us as well. A quick reminder as we get started this evening, the task force was established to study the issue of homelessness within the city of Sioux Falls and make recommendations to the city and the mayor regarding policy and budget things. We had 4 objectives that we're seeking. Number 1, recommend a policy that guides future city involvement, if any, with local shelter capacity and available needs. Number 2, recommend a policy that guides future strategies for how the city engages with homeless individuals on the street. Number 3, review current strategies and identify opportunities for housing homeless families. Number 4, review current housing needs and recommend a strategy that identify opportunities to expand 30 to 40% average medium income housing needs. A quick recap from our first meeting, just a reminder that we're not gathered together to write a 50-page report that ends up on a shelf somewhere. We're gathered together to recommend 2 to 4 actionable things for our mayor and city council to consider based upon those 4 objectives. So tonight, task force members, we have one job, and that's to listen and to learn from members of the public as they share their perspective. If you have questions for members of the public, would encourage you to follow up with them after the meeting and talk on a one-on-one basis. And if you have questions that you would like Jim or myself to follow up on after the meeting, you can ask us, and we'll reach out as well. So this evening, members of the public, each member of the public that would like to speak has 5 minutes. You can come up to the microphone and ask that you would introduce yourself and then simply share your perspective, concerns, or ideas that you want the task force to consider regarding the issue of homelessness. Who wants to get us started tonight from the public?
Can I have your projector again? How do you get this on?
Good evening. Can you get the...
I want to show this. These are the 10, my name is Linda Oliver. I live here in Sioux Falls. First of all, task force stands for, the definition is a temporary grouping of military units or forces under one commander for the performance of a specific operation or assignment. A temporary grouping of individuals and resources for accomplishment of a specific objective. That objective is this. There are 10 stages of genocide. It's wrong what you're thinking about doing. All this, I really feel it's a disguise for this. And because you've already done 1 through 4, now you're on 5. And it's wrong. It's just so wrong. God wants us to love one another. He wants us to support one another. He wants us to not go along with ungodly laws. We are not to follow man's law, but God's law, the law of the land. And no one has the right to force anyone into shelters if they don't want to go, or on a bus and shipping them across country, or in a shelter or concentration camps, because there are those out here now. Those FEMA camps are in play right now, and that's what this is about, people. It's not about helping homelessness, because if it was, there would be no homelessness, because rents would be affordable, food, housing, medical, electric, gas, but they keep bringing up prices in order to put you in a situation where you're desperate to give in to their agenda, and that's this. Those are, no one ever asks anybody before taking a vaccine, the fake COVID vaccine, if they wanted it. A lot of people were forced to take it for their work or school or to be around their grandkids. They felt like they had to do it in order to participate in society. Well, every disease, if they clear that up, you can see it, monkeypox and smallpox, every kind of disease. There's 68 to 67 or 68 diseases in that vaccine. And every time you turn on the news, you see one of them talking about one of these things on this list, and that's from the CDC. They listed every one of their poisons in that. I had the privilege of speaking to one of your people last week before the meeting, and I was trying to give him information on the reason why you guys should not be doing what you're doing. And I heard him say, he said to me that he was trained to give shots. Give shots to who? And for what? That means, because their plan is to, if you don't want to take their poison, they plan on forcing you to take their poison by giving you a shot to comply. Well, that's genocide. And they say it's crimes against humanity. God is trying to give you guys a warning that you go any further, only He can stop you. And He will, and He has been. Just look at your TV, look at your news, where you got people in power saying they're stepping down. They're not going to stay in office, or politicians, people in other countries. God is cleaning house. And what He's trying to do is figure out who has integrity, who has respect for his fellow man, who really cares about his fellow man, or who is going to try and push their agenda and their recklessness onto that person. He wants you to stop. He wants you to stop. He wants you to love us. And remember, we are all supposed to be His servants. And anyone who take the positions you guys have are servants of the public. From police to you all, to firemen, to judges, to sheriffs, you serve us, and we serve God. But you serve God first, and then you serve your people second. But He comes first, and His laws always out-trumps everyone's law. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
Invite anyone else to come forward.
My name is Grant Howman. I own a couple properties over on 8th and Fairfax, and we've redeveloped various projects downtown. I'd like to thank the members here for taking the time out of their busy schedules to address this very important issue. It's kind of an interesting case for me. I've done a lot of things downtown that people said couldn't be done, and my group of investors that have redeveloped everything across from the pavilion, you know, the Josiah's, a lot of these buildings, and everybody always said it had to be the way it was. You know, everybody remembers the Loop and the amount of chaos and wasted time and lives that were downtown during that time frame. And it took people that demanded change and wanted better for our downtown to be the face of our community. And a lot has been accomplished in that time. And, you know, there was anti-cruising ordinances. We We went from law enforcement that wanted the problems downtown to a law enforcement that actually took an active role in helping us bring back our downtown, because without safety, we don't have economic investment. We don't have what we have today. And I think we are the envy of a lot of Midwestern cities today after all the hard work that, you know, people like Carol Pagonis and Steve Metley, and there's been a broad number of people that have paid their price and helped to get us where we are and in the future expansions. And so, you know, we had anti-cruising ordinances, and there were people said you can't do that. That's going to, you know, cause this problem or this issue, and anti-loitering ordinances, and you know, there was a lot of the people laying on the sidewalks, defecation, urination. I could tell you stories that you would never believe, and I've picked up items and cleaned items that you would never even comprehend. And I've seen now the problems move from, you know, across from the pavilion, which, believe it or not, was as bad or worse than the east side and what we're dealing with in that particular area. And so I know change can happen, and change can be a good thing, and it can be good for the people. There's nobody in our organization, I know in our group in the east side 8th Street corridor, that are against homeless. We just don't agree with how it's being managed right now. I'll be honest with you, I'd like to see some property owners and business owners in the 8th Street area that are dealing with. Would have been nice to be a part of the board, but you know, you can't always get everybody's names and involved in everything. In every single board. So I do appreciate the diversification that's on here and everybody that's here and taking the time. My biggest issue right now is in management. I think there's been a time have gone by where a conditional use permit was given to the Dudley House to try to, you know, they had certain parameters that they were supposed to have, and they have not met a lot of those guidelines that were in those parameters. We've seen an issue where basically we moved a lot of the problems from, you know, the downtown Phillips Avenue area to this east side, and we have a high concentration of nonprofits, of which I support and I've contributed money to and I've contributed time to. I just don't think that, I think a lot of them are doing a really good job. I think one in particular has been the hardest to work with, the hardest to deal with, and I'll just say it out loud, it's just the Dudley House. I think the management has been lacking. The individuals laying on the sidewalks, the blankets, and the people just sprawn out, passed out, drinking. I've picked up used condoms. I've picked up, I mean, I can't even begin to see the stuff that I've seen in my part of the area. And I think we can demand better. I think having further expansion I know the prior mayor's administration had thought a high concentration in one area was a good thing. Well, I have an opposite. There's studies out there, a Harvard study in particular, that recognizes that a high concentration of all these services in one area, it's basically sacrificing a lot of blue-collar houses in that area and middle-income houses in that low to middle-income houses in that area. They're sacrificing their property values, their safety. They've got a pool across the street that they can't utilize. There's businesses in the area that are afraid to be open past 5 o'clock because of what happens after, you know, about 7 o'clock at night. It's unsafe. You know, businesses, there used to be a very successful Chinese restaurant that was down there. It is one of the most diversified neighborhoods in our whole state of South Dakota, and I feel it's one of the most neglected. I could go on. I've got 4 seconds here left, and in closing, I'd just like to say that, you know, we need to really focus on the 8th and Fairfax area. There are problems there. There are issues there. There's management problems with one of the nonprofits, and I support the mission. I just don't support the management. And again, thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Good evening, welcome.
Good evening. My name is Irene Chang, and I own a small strip mall on East 10th Street, 2 blocks away from Bishop Dudley House. So I'm here on behalf of my tenant because they've been complaining for years and years and get angry at me that I don't do anything to protect them. And so I have a letter from Ben Miller. He's the owner of the Subway restaurant on 11th 14 East 10th Street. It's 2 blocks away from Bishop Dudley. He couldn't be here. He wanted to be here, but he wrote this for you. So I'm just going to read for you. The frustrations with homeless people in our neighborhood have been getting increasingly worse. This is beyond a business concern and has grown into a concern for public safety. My staff fears them. Customers avoid our area because of the aggressive panhandling or intoxicated behaviors. We have to lock our bathrooms and ask drunken homeless people to leave our restaurant on a daily basis. This happens on a daily basis. They come in intoxicated, aggressive, and steal from us. Change is needed or we will continue to suffer. That's from Ben. So I bought this building in 2008 because it was in a safe and clean neighborhood. It reminded me of the town that we immigrated from Korea way back in 1980s. This building was built in 1980s, and Subway and the vet clinic had been there since the beginning of the building in 1980. So in 2014, the tenants came to me worried that they said they hear that Bishop Dudley will come in our neighborhood and that they're worried. And I told them, don't worry about them because I serve lunch monthly at the local facility, which became Bishop Dudley House. And I said to them, it's all good. Well, I became a liar to my tenants because their fear became true. And I'm going to give you some examples. So in 2014, Argus Leader reported that Bishop Dudley promised that there will be a good neighbor. And it says here, there will be a solution rather than a new problem for the neighborhood. However, they created problems for our business people and me. So again, they sent this out to all the business people in the area. It says there that they're going to be a good neighbor. And it says here, as a promise for all their guests to make, I'm going to read for you, I'll treat all of the neighbors in the Bishop Dudley Hospitality House neighborhood with respect, dignity, and compassion. I will not disturb or bother neighboring business or other people in the neighborhood, such as panhandling. This was given to all the area business. And you know, if you look through it, it says a similar thing over and over in every page, on every page. So this picture I took in the morning, I don't know if you can see very well, in front of Bishop Dudley House. It doesn't show very well on the screen, but there is a mat on the sidewalk. It is clear that a woman slept there overnight. Another picture there, you see the cardboard across the street. People sleep there. You see the garbage strewn all over. So this is just from this morning. I go there almost every day, and I see these happening. And at our building, people come and they urinate, defecate around my building. I pick up their trashes, and they come inside the building, make a mess in the bathroom, and the Subway had to lock their bathrooms, and the owner calls it disgrace. The vet clinic asked me to put security lock called FAP, and I had to oblige, cost me $7,500. And these hardships are just too much for my tenants. When Grant told me that, and most business people that we met, they said majority of the problem really came from Bishop Dudley management. I didn't believe it because I was a past volunteer. So I drove to Bishop Dudley and looked at all this situation. This happens every day. The area is dirty. There are lots of people falling on the sidewalks, you know, sleeping.
Ma'am, we need you to wrap up if you can. Oh, 5
Okay,
minutes.
I go to St. Francis House right across the Cliff Avenue. The area is clean because they take their guests out to pick up garbage every day, and they hire security company to patrol every night.
Thank you.
Not just their buildings, but all the neighborhood. So I ask you to put some strict ordinance on Bishop Dudley.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm Clarence Koistra, a disabled Vietnam vet. I'm concerned about the panel here. Do we have someone that represents the homeless veterans? I assume we do. If not, I think we really should consider that because they play a very important part. And the mayor himself will see this. In September 23rd, we have an annual stand down for veterans, homeless veterans, and those in need at the Alliance Building. And he'll bring over 200 veterans, homeless, near homeless. And the mayor will meet them. I've been involved with them for over 20 years with the stand downs and an advocate for homeless veterans. 20 years ago, we met at Kenny Anderson Community Center with Dave Munson, much like this panel. And we were to have a policy set up for a 10-year. And what came out of that was that there's a political will to help the homeless in Sioux Falls, but there's not the financial part of it. No one had the political financial part. As a result, eventually, the coalition, Homeless Coalition, which I was a part of all those years, eventually evaporated. Funding was a major part of that. So that's how that ended. And I think you have to play an important part, and I speak on behalf of the veterans here because there is a lot of assistance from the VA. That's why it'd be nice to have someone from the VA or the Veteran Service Organization, the VA, VFW, American Legion, DAV, all of them. At least have some type of strong representation because the per diem programs that they have, the grants, etc., are available, and someone should be able to speak to that. The last thing we want to see is on these street corners, the stop corner there, a guy that looks like a veteran in a field jacket will work for food. That person is probably not a veteran, and there's no need for that. There's no need for a veteran to be homeless, and there's a lot of homeless veterans in Sioux Falls, and they can be taken care of. So I would ask this panel to really consider that, make sure that the homeless veterans are part of the panel or considered so they have plenty of input. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for your service. Other members of the public that would like to address the task force?
I'm Phyllis Ahrens. I live in Southeast Sioux Falls. I'm going to come at this from probably a way different perspective than the rest of the speakers. First off, I really do thank you for taking this on. I've been part of the Homeless Coalition, et cetera, for a long time, so this is a thing that's near and dear to my heart. But my question is, has anyone taken the time to interview in depth people who are residing at the Bishop Dudley Hospitality House or the Union Gospel Mission or taking advantage over at the banquet? From all of my experience as an employer and employee, until we find out exactly what the problem is, we can't fix it. And the people who are experiencing homelessness know what the problem is. And so, we can all sit here who live in our wonderful homes that are clean and dry and try and figure out what brought them to homelessness. But if we don't ask them individually, we'll never know. So that's one of the things I hope you will do is somebody's going to take the time, and I know that's going to be a monumental task, but to interview people and find out. Also, please don't ask me to remember any details, but my sister lives in Rockford, Illinois, and I saw in their newspaper many years ago that somehow they had gotten rid of homelessness. And Rockford's about the same size as Sioux Falls, so might want to contact someone there also. So I thank you very much. I look forward to people having a good, safe place to live and not being a disturbance to other people in the community.
Thank you. Other comments or perspectives from the public this evening?
Hi, I'm Gary Van Holf. I'm just a newly retired person. I've been living in Sioux Falls for 40-some years. I've seen this homeless problem, it seems like it's growing and growing. And I want to mention that I think that panhandling has quite a bit to do with it too. I mean, there's a lot of people that are giving money to panhandlers, and it just it increases all the time. And these people, I used to work by a liquor store, and I see a lot of the panhandlers, they go up there and they take that money and they go up and get alcohol, and then they're drunk the rest of the afternoon until they run out of money, until the buzz runs out, and then they go panhandle some more. It's not just alcohol, it's drugs. I figure, I treat this as a law and order thing. I mean, if you don't have law and order, you can't have a really good society. And the other thing is, what was I going to say? Anyway, that's my main thing is I think panhandling has to be addressed. It seems like, and I don't want to say anything against law enforcement, but it's like you guys have different priorities now. You don't seem to go after the little things, and the little things turn into big things. And the town is getting messier. I mean, I see like an old junk trailer sitting like 8th and Main or something. There's people that will go in there and sleep in that junked out trailer during the night after they've had their fun. And we need to clean up the town, get rid of that kind of stuff, that temptation. I've seen a guy that's living underneath the underpass at Minnesota and 229. He's been living there since winter. And he was actually living there when it was really, really cold, and I worried about him freezing to death in that place. I think he's still living there. You see stuff, a lot of stuff on the east side of the road. I mean, they're all over the town. It's not just downtown. It's not just the Catholic place. I think it's all over town. So that's my say. Thanks.
Thank you for sharing. Other perspectives? Welcome.
Hello, my name is Brandy Knife, and I would like to share an example of what I've just recently went through living in downtown Sioux Falls. So I would like to say that I live amongst my people because I could see them over at the public library. And being that I work for an organization that I have 18 years of professionalism as an addiction counselor, the facility that I was residing in treated me no different than how the public treats our homeless population. So my husband is Hispanic, and I was the only Native American at the Dakota Lofts. Recently, on July 10th, my dryer gave out. They just fixed it the day we moved out. And we had to get another place. Because why would you pay $2,000 for an apartment that doesn't have all the amenities that it claims it does? So our neighbor, they're Caucasian couple, asks, why are we moving out? And my husband says, well, we've been without a dryer for 26 days. Now, the dryer piece, we went to the laundromat. We managed to do that. But it was more so of the situation of having vandalism done to my vehicles. And so, me and my daughter, we had just walked over to the library right before we had moved and was around there. I don't quite understand, in the area of where Dakota Lofts is, there was no problems. The homeless would walk by. I think being cordial or being respectful is one way to say it. But to say that in a aspect of these human beings. I myself am a professional person. I work full-time. By looking at me and judging me, I was treated no better than the people on the streets. And that really hurts. And so when I heard about this task force, my thought is, where are the people that are on the street? Who's speaking for them? Because if I wouldn't be here right now speaking for myself, who would speak up for me? Because the landlord over there, LPM, still wants me to pay rent. And I'm going to, because I can afford to. But what about the people that can't? There is nobody that I can run to. There's nobody that I can get help from. But seeking out the support of the people that I work with have told me that come and share my story. Because if I'm a working American Indian woman, but I'm treated no different by the people that are in my surroundings, that hurts. And when is time going to change? Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Janine Hefner. I'm from Sioux Falls, and I'm thinking like Brandy and like Phyllis. So I don't know about you guys and what your experience is with disability and trying to get some of the resources that are available here in Sioux Falls, but the navigation of the system is horrible. If you don't have internet, I'm an educated woman, and you don't have internet, and you don't have somebody to do some of these things for you, you aren't going to get the disability that you've earned. You aren't going to get the food stamps and the SNAP, which has a new name now. You aren't going to get these things. So I'm with Phyllis. Why are some of these people homeless? And obviously there are many reasons, okay? I think that's important to treat Brandy and all of us as human beings like you want to be treated. I know there are some situations where some people actually like to go panhandle because they make more money panhandling than they do working an hourly wage. That's a fact here in Sioux Falls. So I'm just wanting to address the navigation of the system and try to clear up some of that. And maybe there can be a group of people that, we can go to and say, hey, we need help on the internet. I don't understand this language, because it is a lot of legal language. And I would like to start there. Find out who is homeless, who actually deserves their disability and can have it, their SSI, their Medicaid, whatever is available. That's where I would like to start. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Hi. I have stuff to give you.
Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Tamara Grove. I'm a citizen here in Sioux Falls and have been since 1993. I just wanted to share what you're going to see in there is a presentation that I did last year in front of the housing task force that was set up out in Pierre. And so it seems to be a concern throughout the state, but I don't know that we're really getting very far. I just wanted to say a little bit about myself. I was part of the Diversity Coalition, which you'll see in the front part of that PowerPoint. I was the lead author for President Trump for what became known as the First Step Act. And then I was part of the Urban Revitalization Coalition, which we wrote 12 more things for the president to consider. And one of those things was affordable housing. The person that I worked with, she built tiny homes in Arizona for the homeless, and she was convinced that she could end homelessness in Arizona with tiny homes. I thought she was crazy, but when I went to Secretary Carson's Innovative Housing on the National Mall in 2019, I thought, now this is a brilliant man, and he was thinking outside of the box, looking for innovative ways to address homelessness, and he loved the tiny home that we brought from Arizona to Washington, D.C. And so ever since then, I've been here in Sioux Falls in my own community saying what's happening here and how can we help. And what I've found is that there really is an issue, number one, and number two, tiny homes will work here too, which I brought up before. There's lots of things that I can tell you about what tiny homes are not, but what I want to tell you really quickly is what tiny homes are is they're like 60 square feet to 400 square feet here in Sioux Falls. They're acceptable if built on a foundation. And so we can build stick-built. There's also other innovative ways like shipping containers, which you probably can't find now. People renovate all kinds of different things. Silos, buses, sheds. What I want to do is build 3D cement printed tiny homes. So these are friendly in every kind of way environmentally, and they're also extremely affordable. I work with a group that is here in Sioux Falls. They are more than happy to assist me in any of my big ideas for tiny homes. They're called Sioux Falls Environmental Access. So currently in Sioux Falls, homes, the average home, it just went down like a little bit to 333,000. That's the average. The median income in Sioux Falls is 34,000. So we might be talking about homeless people right now who have addictions and other various issues, but as things continue to progress in the manner that they are, we're going to include other people like who I was. A woman who lived in a shelter for a while. I was able to come home. I owned a home at the time, and I was able to stay in it. But people like me with 2 little children, with the way things are, the expenses, I wouldn't have been able to stay there very long, and I would have been living in the street, in my car, probably with my little children. There's a lot of homeless children in the city of Sioux Falls, just as a side note. In there, you're going to see who can't afford a $250,000 home. Who cares now? Because they're $333,000. The picture on the left is my daughter. The picture on the right is my dad who adopted me when I was a baby. Neither one of them could have afforded a $250,000 home at the time of my dad in this picture. But they both could have afforded a tiny home. So what I'm saying to you is that it's a wide range of people that would be able to afford a tiny home. And the ones that I build are for $15 an hour and up wage earners. I think I'm on yellow, so I will cut that very short. But please look at the what I just handed out. I would really appreciate it because I think it's a solution.
Thank you for sharing your ideas.
Yeah.
Other members of the public that would like to speak this evening?
Hey everybody, I'm Alex Hofkamp. I'm a owner and operator of Johnstone Supply downtown. Want to thank you guys for your time and energy, and I know you guys are giving up time away from your family to put energy toward this, so thank you for that. Like some of the other business owners in the downtown region, I don't want to continue to bring up a lot of the same things over and over again, but it is a challenge. But the thing that, and even what everybody else is saying, we are a big investor of, whether it be the Bishop Dudley House, St. Francis House, the Mission, and we believe that there needs to be ongoing investment in that. But the thing that gets kind of scary is when you go out to the park and there's a fight, or people are pulling a gun. Todd Stone isn't here, but he had a gun get pulled on him not that long ago. And those are the things that we want to avoid. It makes it very difficult for us to hire good employees and do a lot of those things. But what I want to echo is that if funding is some of what is needed in order for this to get better, I know there's a lot of us that would be willing to help and support. So I don't want money, so to speak, as being the reason why you don't want to consider doing something, if there are people in the downtown area that are willing to make investments to make it better. So that's all I got.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Bruce Hoyer. I was just alerted to this meeting today, so I apologize. I'm very unprepared. But I own Next Edge Academy, which is down right by Bishop Dudley and across from the food bank. And it's become a pretty, daily thing that is just like behind our building. A lot of times I'm cleaning up human poop all the time. And that just kills me. And both on the, ethical side and just in general. But the one thing for me, like I was homeless as well for a long time when I was younger. The thing that was always difficult for me at the St. Francis House was the fact that like when I was homeless because of a completely crazy situation, I was always trying to improve, but they were always kicking me out at 6 o'clock in the morning and not actually helping me. They gave me a place to stay, they gave me food, but they didn't actually help me progress in that. And so, and I feel that same thing is continuing, where it's, I just don't see that progression where it's like, okay, here's our next step that we're going to take in order to let you, bring you along on this path to bring you back up, rather than just kind of putting the Band-Aid on that situation. And for me, it was something that I had to do myself. And so with that, I'd really like to see, whatever we bring into this situation is that it's a step-on process. And for me, I don't know if that needs to be outside of town. Like, when I think of it, it's like, okay, maybe that needs to be outside of town, because I would say 90% of this is based off of people that are addicted to drugs or alcohol. And that's a majority of it that I see anyways. I know that there's a lot of people like myself that were not addicted to drugs, did not have problems, that just fell on hard times and were able to pick themselves back up and get into those better situations. But I feel like the folks that are addicted, that have access to be able to get, panhandling and get a couple bucks off the street and be able to get into that. Like if we were to take this outside of town where, okay, we can get into a better situation where now they don't have access to panhandling, they don't have access to the alcohol, the drugs that they did. That's something that I'd really like to see. Just because, like I said, I feel like it's better for both situations. But thank you very much for your time. And this is something that's near and dear to my heart. So if there's anything that we can do to help, I want to make sure, I was homeless myself, that those people are treated with respect, and also that they're helped. But at the same time, like, we need to understand that I feel like there's two separate groups here. There's folks that are unfortunate, there's folks that have chosen this path rather than been put in this path. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
Good evening. Thank you for your service. My name is Bob Jardine. I'm a partner at Electric Supply Company. We own the property on Indiana Avenue in Fairfax, right across the street from the Dudley House. I also serve on the board for the Dudley House to help try and manage the facility. It's a tough road. The Dudley House, right now, if we close the doors tonight, we'd have 150 people on the street, and up to 180. It's every night they're coming in for a safe place to sleep. There's some bad apples that have really, really hurt our value of our property, because if you want to talk about a loop, the 9th Street alley and the 9th Street, which goes behind their property, they walk up and down that street constantly to wherever it is on the east side where they're congregating. And that's where the trouble lies a lot. And then in behind our businesses, right there, in the alleys where they can just kind of hang out. But what we don't see, and I don't know how to deal with it, and I guess that's your job, congratulations, is all the people at the Dudley House who are washing clothes all day long, using free internet, getting services that they need. And, before I got on the board, I was a property owner that was pretty disgruntled. I'm like, this is just tough, because I came into property in 1996. And after we bought our property, the banquet came in, all these things come to our neighborhood. And, our business is 8 to 5. So it isn't affected a lot by the evening. But the restaurants have just been killed down there. They can't have an evening business. So I guess what I'd like to see is a foot patrol, if we could, and treat it like the streets of New York, if we have to. And, just patrol the living daylights out of that area to keep things moving. And don't provide a place for these people to hang out. I mean, my office window, I can look right out onto the parking area behind Hernandez Tortillas, and every day there's a congregation of 8 to 10 people who sit there and drink and yuck it up, and they're not hurting anything other than their garbage. But I mean, let's patrol our neighborhood and keep things moving. But back to my point, the Dudley House serves a very important mission, and it's tough because we have to help these people. And we're providing, tonight, there's 8 families in the family rooms with children that have a place to sleep. We can't kick them out on the street. And there's probably 20 to 30 ladies, and the rest are men. And it'll be full. And they're probably about done checking in right now. So it's we need help with it. You know, it's the Dudley House they can take some of the blame for it, but we need more Dudley houses is what we need. And maybe not necessarily all in our area, but we need more homes like that across town where we aren't concentrated. Because you can go to the banquet for breakfast, you can go to the Dudley House for dinner, and you can go to the banquet for supper. So, I mean, it's all concentrated right there. So of course we've got a concentration of people that's tough to deal with. So I thank you for your help, and we need to get to work on it. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Hi, thank you for your time. My name is Brian Balsaric. I manage the handyman store just to the south of Bob's business. Again, I don't think any of the business owners in that area are against the homeless people by any means, but at some point or another, we got to try to identify what we've got running around there. Yes, we've got the drugs, we've got the alcohol, but how about mental problems? Are any of these guys been, there's mental issues there also that are definitely in effect. To go back to 19 years ago, I've been there, and it went from a store that the kids would stop in after they got done swimming at the swimming pool to get a drink, to use the bathroom. We don't see any of that anymore. There's none of those kids coming in anymore. And I guess I can't blame the local people, the parents that would let their kids walk in that neighborhood, because we're open Monday through Friday from 8 in the morning to 9 o'clock at night. And I've got adults that will not go over to our other building that is just south of the Dudley House to go get product for people. I mean, it's not safe. That alley, everybody calls it an alley. It's not an alley, it's 9th Street. And you can walk through there any time of the day, and there are people they're just sleeping right in that alley. I mean, laying out, possibly get run over. It's changed a lot. It's changed a lot in the last few years. All the local neighborhood people that used to live there and come into the store on a weekly basis, whether they needed to fix a toilet or a faucet, whatever, they would stop in. And over the last 7 years, I don't see any of those people anymore, because they got tired of getting up in the morning and having somebody passed out on their stoop of their house, and they'd have to kick them out of the way to get out of their own house. I do like the idea of foot patrols. I mean, that would be fantastic. And the officers that we have in that area do a very good job. But I don't know, it's not enough. I don't have any answers for you, but the feces, the hypodermic needles that I find laying around, it is a nonstop thing. Our store on the east and the west side, we put up just a 6-foot chain link fence just to cut down on the foot traffic that comes through there, that they would kind of wait by the side of the building and wait for typically a female by herself to go and try to get money from. I had to get one of my staff to just kind of stand by the door to watch, to make sure that nobody was getting hit up for money on the way into the store. Or they would literally lean against the door asking for money and wouldn't let people out of the car until they gave them something. I've got videos, I've got pictures, I don't even know how many phone calls have been made to people having sex in our parking lot at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And I'm not saying that's it's, the Dudley House is not the, you know, we're not pointing our fingers at them going, it's their fault, their fault, their fault. But all this started when, from what I understand, the rules that they instill there is we will not turn anybody away. That's a great mission to have, but there's got to be some rules placed on these people that are just, in my eyes, and they could be wrong, but just taking advantage of the situation and causing issues for all the business owners in that neighborhood and the actual people that live in the neighborhood. So with that, I guess I have nothing else for you.
Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Other members of the public?
Good evening, I'm Rick Albright. I live here in Sioux Falls. Anyo Hashimika. Apetu Washte. I've been volunteering at the banquet for 21 years, and I've been affiliated with a lot of the other agencies around town where volunteers are greatly accepted. I would encourage the panel to give a hand up rather than a handout. Please remember that. Handouts condone the status quo. So if you want to continue homelessness, please just leave things the way they are and keep giving handouts. They have to be hand-ups. So if the task force hopes to improve the homeless situation, the need is to break the cycle. To break the cycle, it's necessary for those being helped to actively participate in their recovery. Whether that's for the children being more involved with school. When I grew up in Fargo, I can remember getting blocks of cheese, cans with no labels, all that kind of stuff. I can remember going to high school and looking in my closet and seeing 2 pairs of pants and 3 shirts for 4 years. I swept the floors, I cleaned the bathrooms, I finished second in my class at something that's equivalent to O'Gorman. My high school scores reflected what I put in to school to get out. I actively participated to improve myself, and that is what you need. You need buy-in from the people that you're going to be helping. If you're going to have these tiny houses, you need to have them have a buy-in as well. Good, you're going to give us your SNAP money, you're going to give us your SSI. Those things are the buy-in for the small, tiny houses. We will give you a place to stay, we will make it safe, but you're going to take it from there. You need to show initiative, you need to take a step up. There needs to be initiative on the parts of those that you're helping. If they're not, all you're going to have are a bunch of drunks and alcoholics in the places that you're going to be providing for them. One concern you need to have when dealing with what I've seen for the Native American population is that they are a very tightly knit organization. Unfortunately, if you're going to be helping one person and that person has friends that are alcoholics and addicts, you're asking them to give up their friends and parts of their family. So that may be another thing that you're going to have to contend with. How do you help identify another social group that the people you're helping can become a part of so that they can improve their lives, so they might be able to take a step back and start over? Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming. Anyone else wish to address the task force this evening? Last call. All right, well, on behalf of members of the task force, I do want to express our sincere appreciation. We do really appreciate the input of the public this evening, the different perspectives, ideas, and it's really important that we are engaged with one another throughout this process. And so we don't want that to stop this evening, but there will be opportunity in the future to give continued input and participate in ongoing conversation. Our next meeting is scheduled for Monday, August 22nd at 4 o'clock. That meeting will take place at the Downtown Library, room A and B. So task force, August 22nd, room A and B. The agenda for that meeting will be objective number 2. So if you look at your agenda this evening, objective number 2 will be our agenda that That meeting will be focused on discussing a policy that guides future strategies for how the city engages with homeless individuals on the street. We'll be visiting with the chief of police, the city attorney regarding city ordinances, and looking at some other strategies and ideas from different cities as well. Task force members also, one of our members, Mike, created for us from the Helpline Center just a packet of all of the different resources that are available in the community. Public, this is also available for download at siouxfalls.org/homeless. Thank you, Mike, for putting that together for us. It's a variety of resources, and also a reminder, last week we heard from a variety of nonprofits recognizing that there's a bundle of other nonprofits and organizations. If you've got a specific nonprofit or organization that you believe we need to hear from as we look at these different objectives, please reach out to Jim or I, and we'll seek to get them on the agenda for that specific meeting. We want to make sure to include those in the conversation that are directly impacted by the different objectives. So task force, really appreciate you coming tonight, giving your time to listen, and next Monday you'll be sent the full agenda for the meeting on the 22nd to prepare for that. So, and any questions, task force members? All right, members of the public, thank you for coming tonight, and hopefully join us on August 22nd.
Meeting reminder.